in this frame of mind where I don't really give a fuck, because I've slept on the street, I've eaten out of trash cans, I've been at rock bottom, and once you've been at rock bottom, you're not scared to go back, because there's only one way to go but up from there, you know. So and I yeah, like I said, that all of the adversity I had to go through early on, I think definitely set me up for success in a weird way.
Yeah.
You know.
So how did you get into this world of scamming?
Growing up on the street, you had to survive.
Yeah.
You know, so it was shoplifting, and it was figuring out ways to get free food, and it was figuring out ways to scam this and figuring out ways to scam that. You know, so it always starts small, and then it builds over time. And over the years, it just gets bigger and bigger, and the scams get bigger, and the risks get bigger. And yeah, so it starts small. You know, it started with, I think I started making fake coupons on the computer using Photoshop to go and get free food. You know, and then it went from there to scamming the library system, trying to figure out how to get free internet service, and you know what I mean, trying to figure out how to get free streams online and you know, it's just been a never-ending saga. Fraud has been such a huge part of my life, unfortunately.
And the fraud that you were committing was heavily influenced by your skills in design and Photoshop. Is that right?
Yeah. I was always been interested in graphic design and media arts and stuff like that, and always played around the computer and did a little bit of web development, graphic design, and it allowed me to see, okay, I can do this, and I had an artistic spin. I think, like, I can do this or I can do that, or if this scam comes along, I'm able to, you know, figure out how to work every angle of it, pretty much just through that one avenue.
So initially, what was it? You were just trying to get by. You were just trying to eat and put clothes on your back? Is that why you were scamming at first?
I didn't want to work a job.
Right.
Yeah, I didn't want to work a regular 9 to 5. To me, this is going to sound insane, but I would rather commit suicide or spend the rest of my life in prison than work a regular 9 to 5 job. It's just not in the cards for me.
Yeah, I can relate to you there.
Yeah, it's just not something. I can't do it. I can't wake up every day and go to the same building and punch a clock. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, there's a ceiling.
Yeah, for
sure.
You
dig what I'm saying? Like, you can't. You're always going to have that limitation placed on you. Mm-hmm. You know, and I can't. I can't live with limitations. I can't. It limits my thinking. It limits my. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, you started out homeless, scamming, doing like little scams, like trying to scam people with fake lottery tickets and coupons, right? Mm-hmm. How do you graduate from that to literally printing thousands and thousands of credit cards and making millions of dollars a month? Yeah.
Well, that didn't happen overnight. It was a slow process. You know, I started buying cards myself online and using them.
When you say buying cards, what do you mean by that?
Plastic. So I'm not sure how deep you want to get into it.
As deep as we can get.
Okay.
Balls deep, baby.
Like the forms, explain,
Sure.
The credit card forms.
Okay, well, I guess the easiest way to explain it is to kind of break it down and how the whole thing actually kind of works is anytime you go to a store and you use your debit card and you swipe that magnetic strip, that information that's stored on that magnetic strip is sent to a server somewhere and it's held. Well, these kids over in Russia or you know, Ukraine or wherever these kids are, they hack it. They get these numbers, and these numbers by themselves are useless. I mean, you can't go online and buy anything with them. You know, it's pretty much just a raw metadata that's encoded to the back of your plastic card.
Right.
Now, they sell this information for $5, $6, $7, $10, $20, $30 a pop, whatever. Now, with that information, you have to have another piece of equipment, and you have to have a physical card to write that information to be able to clone, to copy, to go to use it in the retail setting. You follow along so far?
Yeah.
And basically what you do is you got two different vendors that you can find, and you've got different various avenues to get to these vendors. You know, you got, back when I was doing this, is back in the early 2000s, there was carding forums which don't really exist anymore. The FBI and Secret Service and everything did a pretty good job of shutting them all down. But yeah, you go to these websites and you go to these pages and you get these numbers and you code them to the cards. You go out and use them. And this is what I was doing in the beginning. You know, I would log on. I would figure out what numbers were working, and they're called dumps is the terminology.
Dumps?
Yeah, that's the terminology for the track information. Yeah, it's like it's a dump of information. So
okay.
Yeah, that's the terminology.
And this is the black strip on the back of the credit card?
The magnetic strip on the back of the credit card, correct. Yeah.
That's the dump.
Yeah, that's your track information. It's referred to as a dump if you're going to purchase it on the black market. And so, yeah, you know, I would purchase these dumps and I would you know, have to figure out the plastic to write them to. And at that time, the plastic was expensive. Like vendors selling plastic was like $100, $200 a piece for one single card that they would print, that they would make, and they would sell it to you. And then you would have a piece of equipment called an MSR 206 reader writer, and you would have to encode, you know, encode your own cards and figure out how to use them.
Mm-hmm.
And
you were buying these legally, like in the U.S. The cards were illegal.
No.
Okay.
This is all illegal.
Everything.
There's
illegal.
nothing about this that's legal at all. Yeah, it's fraud
You
all
want
the way
to know?
around.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is a podcast.
Oh, stop. Your stuff's going.
Typically,
stop.
you turn your phone off.
Oh,
during
all
a
right,
podcast.
all right.
Yeah, it's fraud all the way around.
Okay.
So yeah, you can buy these plastic cards blank legally, but then you're gonna need like a printer to put the logos and the templates and the design and all that stuff like that. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so I got into it and I started using them just slowly here and there, and then I kind of figured out like, you know, I'm missing out on some good money. I'm kind of being middled, you know. The money to me wasn't in using the cards at the stores like the retail. I mean, it was fun at first, you know, being able to walk into a store and pretty much swipe and, you know, get whatever you want. There's a certain rush to it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But when you look at it from a financial standpoint, it wasn't sustainable for any kind of long term, because you're taking too much risk. You know, I'm walking in, I'm putting my face on 100 different cameras every day, and let's say on a good day you hit 5 Walmarts and you got a laptop from every Walmart. You're doing good, right? You got 5 laptops. You can go and sell them. But once you do that, you got to go back and get 5 more, and you got to go back and get 5 more, and you got to go back and get 5 more.
You need a way to scale.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I can't. It's just like I said. It's just I needed more money, and I needed.
So where did the money?
Less risk.
Where did the money come from, though? So you're buying the dump. So the information.
That's your information. Some citizen's information.
Okay, so the dumps that you're buying is some victims.
Well, yeah, like I explained in the beginning, it's like when you go to any store and you swipe your debit card, that information is saved somewhere.
Okay.
And then that information is subsequently hacked.
Got it.
From whoever, and then sold on the black market. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's like the front end of the operation. The back end of the operation is the actual manufacturing of the cards themselves. And there's like a whole other market for that as well. You know, like, so there's people who sell just plastics. They're called plastic vendors, which is what I eventually ended up making all my money. It's where I found my success at later, was with just actually being a plastics vendor myself, selling plastic. You know, but like in the beginning, I didn't know. I was green. Like I had no fucking idea. You know, so I'm using them in stores. And
I'm sorry, can I say something? But it was
would
basically.
you like to interject?
Yes, I'd like to interject. But
Yeah, you got to raise your hand and ask for permission.
Basically, but it was you were at that point. It was your brother who kind of had mentioned.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that what you meant? Like, how did you get into it?
He kind of turned me on to the game a little bit. He kind of put me up on game, kind of turned me on to it, and
then it kind of that built from there. So it's like he didn't come out of the gate knowing this. It's like it was you know the brother.
And there was a lot of mistakes made.
Yeah, they slowly started. Yeah.
There's a lot of mistakes made. I mean, I would go to a store and all my cards would get declined, and I've been chased out of stores by security. I've been, you know what I mean? Like there's plenty of trial and error to this whole thing. You know, I just didn't start off making crazy amounts of money. You know, it took about 2 years actually of just slowly, you know, building and working on the product and trying to make it better and trying to figure out, you know, little by little by little by little.
So you're buying these cards loaded up with people's information. You're going to stores. You're buying laptops. You're buying electronics and shit. What are you doing? You selling it on eBay? Selling it on Craigslist?
Yeah, Craigslist and everything, pretty much. Yeah.
Okay. And what kind of money are you making doing that?
It was up and down, man. You know, because like, and another part of the problem is you really don't know what each limit of each card's going to be, because I don't know how much money you have in your bank account. You know what I mean? So it's like, if I'm walking into a store, I don't know I don't know how much I'm going to swipe for. So the money, it was never consistent. So it was like maybe I'd make a couple $1,000s one week, and then the next week I'd lose a couple $1,000s. You know what I mean? Or the next week I'd make $3,000, and then the next week I would make $500. Mm-hmm. So the money was never consistent, and it was like every store you go into, it's like you got to watch security, and you got to pick your person at the counter, and it's like a whole. It becomes exhausting after a while.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you graduate from? What did you graduate to after that? And how did you step it up a level?
Yeah, well, I started doing online carding, actually, which normally people usually do the online carding first, but then I got into the online carding second. And that's when I got onto the online, I really got into the online forums, because the online carding pushed me more online. Because the physical carding is just more, okay, I'm going to buy it, and I'm in the stores all day long. I'm out doing the stores, and I'm doing the physical aspect part of it. But when I really started getting into the online carding is when I started getting into like the carding forums, and I started reading tutorials, and I started talking to other guys that were doing fraud. And I kind of, you know what I mean? Like there was some guys that would do a bunch of fraud, and they would just write a whole matrix on it.
What year was this?
2004, 2005. So this is pre-Silk Road.
This is pre-Silk. Okay,
this
I was just
is
going to ask you
pre-Silk
that.
Road. Yeah, like the Silk Road didn't even exist at this time. There was no dark web, Silk Road.
Right.
It just didn't exist. So I was using IRC chats, and I was using carding forums.
There was no Bitcoin, was there?
Bitcoin was in its infancy.
Okay.
Yeah. Which I invested, believe it or not, I think somewhere around $2,500 in Bitcoin when they first kicked off. And that... I would be a multimillionaire by now. I would be 100 times over.
Holy fuck.
Yeah, but that
dude.
laptop that Bitcoin on was confiscated by the Secret Service.
No way.
Yeah, so the Secret Service has a laptop now with probably $100 million on it. I mean, I don't know what the conversion rate is now. I mean, do the math. 2005, Bitcoin was like...
Bitcoin's at what, like $12,000?
It's at like $12,000, $13,000 right now. So yeah. Major bummer.
Fuck. All right, so you're on these forums.
Right, yeah. So I got into online forums, and it really opened my eyes to the whole world of carding and fraud and the actual technical side behind it on the back end. And that's when I kind of figured out where the money was at, like where the money is to be made at. And it was in plastic. It was in plastic. Because the guy making the most money wasn't the guy mining the gold. It was the guy selling the pickaxes.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's where my mind went to. And I was like, you know what? I love
that analogy.
I like that.
I love
that.
I
was just thinking that's...
I have a good friend who said that to me years ago, and it's always stuck with me.
Yeah, and it made sense to me too at the time, and I was like, okay, well, where's the money at? Where's the money at in this whole? Let's sit down and look at this whole thing subjectively. Let's look at everything and figure out where the money is. And once I figured that out, then I started working at that little puzzle.
Okay, so how did you figure out that piece of the puzzle? How did you start?
Trial and error, man.
How did you be like, you gotta start making these pickaxes, these credit cards, these pieces of
I
plastic?
bought just a piece of shit, cheap fucking, I think it was like a Fargo DTC printer from eBay. It was like $200, and the cards that you made with it were shit. Like the quality, they never printed right or anything like that. And I was making them. I was fucking going out to the store trying to use them. You know what I mean? And I was getting ran out of stores, and so it was like, so I had to start with like a real low-tech operation. Like I was using like a manual embosser to push the numbers in the cards. Like I had a big fucking wheel in it with all the fucking characters, and you had zzz, like an old, rotary phone.
Yeah, like a typewriter.
And you had to physically stamp out the card, So I started real low tech, And then I knew, the better equipment. I had to, get the money and buy the better printer, buy the manual or the automatic embosser, buy the heat, the foil stamper, and it's just I knew every piece of equipment I had to buy to make my product better. And that was like the first main goal.
Where'd you buy like the actual physical blanks?
Oh, there's a website that sells like all that crap. That sells like the printer ribbons for the printer for the Fargo printers. They sell the blank because none of this equipment is illegal to own or purchase.
Right.
I mean, you can purchase all this equipment for for your business.
Make gift cards. You can make.
Say you want to do employee ID badges or for hospitals and banks and all. Also like all this equipment it's readily available on the internet. You just got to know where to look.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you? What kind of money were you making? Like.
In the beginning, I wasn't making shit.
In the beginning, you were just buying shit and selling it on Craigslist.
I was in the hole in the beginning. Like I've lost so much money doing all this crap. I think I poured so much money in the beginning. It was just ridiculous. I mean, I was getting robbed. You know what I mean? Like there's a bunch of scammers online. Like you got to go through that whole rigmarole and get robbed 10 times before you actually find somebody who's legitimate. And so
really, fuck.
Yeah, it's a whole. I mean, you're dealing with scumbags.
There's no rating system like on eBay.
There is now.
There is now.
Oh, there is now. Yeah. I mean, they've got escrow services and shit now for fraud. Like say I want to buy like 100 pieces of plastic off a vendor and I've never purchased from you before. Well, there's a fucking fraud escrow service where you send the money to escrow. I get my product. I tell escrow, okay, I'm satisfied with it, and they go ahead and release the money to the vendor.
Wow.
Like it's all fucking.
It's legit now.
It's all corporate now. Yeah. It's all
Holy
corporate.
Shit.
Yeah, I was back in the Flintstone days, man. I was
Yeah.
one of the first pioneers of this whole fucking thing.
That's
think.
fucking wild, dude.
Yeah, it's all Star Trek.
Is this
space
stuff?
age
Is
now.
this stuff still going on right? Like today? Is it?
The game's changed a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still the same. It's still the same. But banks have cracked down a lot harder. You know what I mean? So say I would buy 100 dumps, 100 cards, and they were from like California, and I was in Michigan, and I tried to use them in Michigan, they would get declined right away. Now they would. Before it wasn't so much, but now it's. Yeah, now it's the whole game's changed. Yeah, and I don't even know if there's a whole lot of money left in it anymore.
Yeah.